Hello everyone, my name is Danny Rogers, and I'm doing my project on China and its climate change policies and its overall climate issues. China, which is located in East Asia, is also known as the People's Republic of China, or the PRC, has a land area of about 9.6 million square kilometers. So it's the third largest country in the world next to Russia and Canada. With a population of 1.4 billion, they're the most populous country on Earth. Their government is by title communist, but over the last few decades they've adopted a lot of pro-capitalist policies. So when people call them communists, it's really not completely accurate in this day and age. So it's basically no secret that China is by and large the highest emitter of CO2. So 28% of the world's emissions as of 2015, according to the Union of Concerned Scientists, which is more than the United States and Europe combined. And the United States, up to about the 70s, was the highest emitter, but China overtook very fast. China's vulnerability to climate hazards is very high. Annual losses to natural hazards average 76 billion, and around one-third of China's agricultural land is affected by climatic hazards such as storms, droughts, floods, land subsidence, landslides. They also are notorious for their smog issues, where a lot of days of the year the air is almost unbreathable. They have to issue warnings saying basically don't go outside for a very long period of time. And as you can see, I mean, the smog gets really bad sometimes. It really depends on the wind and the weather. And a lot of the smog is due to them being in East Asia, which is notoriously a lot of countries like South Korea, um, Japan have also smog issues, but China is by far has the worst smog issues. Um, the air pollution is so bad that about 1.6 million Chinese experience premature deaths a year as a result of air pollution, just directly due to air pollution, which is alarming to say the least. China, in 2012, China reported climate change impacts are already being experienced by agricultural sector. The most vulnerable regions of China are believed to be those are termed agricultural pastoral transition zones in central and northern China. These regions experience low annual precipitation rates. This combined with geographic high risk of flood and a moderate risk of drought in many agricultural regions. The agricultural sector has an overwhelming amount of people in poverty, which, while urban residents experience a higher standard of living and are not risked for floods or droughts as much. However, air pollution is again a serious problem for urban residents and is responsible for millions of deaths per year, and this is predicted to get worse only before it gets better. Rising sea levels could also devastate these coastal populated urban areas. Alright, so their energy consumption, as you can see from this chart, is uh, far and wide mostly coal. Um, Hold on, let me pull up this thing. Yeah. China is easily the world's largest coal producer. It accounted for 98.7% of emissions in 1950 and 73% in 2008. As of 2015, China is the world's top energy consumer and CO2 emitter, accounting for, well, depending on the source, some people say 26%, some people say 30%. But all in all, for one country, that's a good amount of global emissions. So, what does China plan to do about these issues, or are they even doing anything? Well, for the answer would be about yes. China is not hiding from its climate problems. It's still identified as a communist state. So a lot of communist states release things called five-year plans, which is basically all the policy they plan to achieve in 5 years. And they lay it all out. So this graph is good at telling where their priorities are and what they plan to achieve. Doesn't mean they will achieve it, but they plan to. Um, the last three 5-year plans, so basically 2005 to 2020 have all addressed climate change, with each one ramping up significantly on climate focus. It's currently on pace, according to the CCP, on its plans of lowering a measure known as carbon intensity, having carbon dioxide emissions reach to a peak no later than 2030. So basically, they plan to peak in 2030 in their emissions and then go down after that. And they also, at that time, plan on having a fifth of energy come from non-fossil fuel sources by that year, which may seem like not a lot, but for China would be a big goal to reach. Yeah, so looking at this plan in the environmental sector, they tend to do a lot of this with new energy vehicles, NEVs, which are basically electric cars. Since they are a state, a communist state, they produce a lot of their own cars, and if more cars are electric, people would be forced to buy electric cars, which is one of the things the U.S. would have struggled doing since it's a free market. Overall, they still use an overly large amount of coal, more than any country on Earth. They're still considered a developing country. So what that means is, while a lot of people argue, why should they be held to the same standards that we have? We already industrialized decades and decades ago. We've done our on our works on the climate. Basically, we were the biggest emitter for the last probably 100 years before China. So who are we to step in now and say, all right, well, you guys got to stop. You guys can't develop anymore. You got to stop industrializing. So a lot of issues are going on with that. But overall, international pressure as well as strong internal pressure and impending disasters, China is being forced to act now rather than later. And their government has they definitely understand the climate issue, and they're going as far as they can to take care of it while also industrializing. That'd be it for my project. Hope you guys have a good day. Thank you. All right, here are my sources.